right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Forum. Thanks for being here with us. It looks like Sid is getting Jerry all suited up here. I'm just curious, how many of you have attended a Lenten film series? Yeah, just about most of us here. How many haven't? Not many people have not heard of it. It's a wonderful series. If you haven't heard of it, this is your chance as it's coming up. Okay, Jerry White, to my right here, is a 30-plus year member of FCC and has been conducting the Lenten film series and the summer, fall, winter, spring film series for more than 20 years. He's an avid cinema buff, obviously, since high school, and enjoys curating the films and moderating the post-film discussions. But he's particularly fond of the pre-film potluck dinners. So for those of you that have come to the series, you know all about that. We love to have a meal out in the Founders Room first, and good discussion, and then we start a wonderful film. So let's give Jerry White a warm welcome.
Great, thanks, Rob. I'm looking forward to sharing some of the history of the film series with you, and we'll have some time for questions at the conclusion. I think we'll hold questions to the end so that we can get through as many of the slides and film clips as we can before the sun comes over the rose window horizon. So, some of this talk is based on a talk that I gave probably about 12, 15 years ago at a UCC church in Boulder. It was a Rocky Mountain conference about all sorts of different things, and Ben asked me if I would say a little something about the film series and how it works and why it works and why we have it. And I titled that talk, Cinema and Spirituality, a philosophical and how-to guide to film, food, and fellowship. And all of those things, I think, have an equal weight in the film series as we have it here at First Congregational Church. And I'm hoping that you'll agree with me. I see so many familiar film series faces out there in the audience, although during the actual film series it's dark in here and you really can't see who's where. But well, let's talk a little bit about this. I really do like to embrace the history of film. Hard to believe, but film has been with us, cinema has been with us for more than 125 years. Thinking back to the Lumiere brothers in Lyon in France, as they filmed the workers leaving their factory, one of the first films ever made. And that first film told us a little something about the human condition. I'm not sure exactly what, but clearly that was part of what they were doing. We've enjoyed talking to each other about our own personal insight of the films, and we've also, of course, just enjoyed being in the same room with each other watching cinema. And I emphasize that one of the really fundamental characteristics of film viewing is being in a dark room with others, watching these films come up at 24 frames a second as a group. It is a communal activity, and so it differs from sitting at home watching Netflix. Not that we don't do that, but the experience of cinema in a theater, and here we have what is essentially a theater, differs from the experience that so many people have now with film. I'm going to start with a reflection. You know, during the film series, we usually have a scripture reading and tied to the lectionary. Today I'll start with a reflection, the 23rd Psalm, which I think everyone's familiar with, but I'll read it to you anyway since I've got the microphone and I'm up here and I get to pick. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I chose this psalm to read to you now because we have a film clip that we have seen several times. First time, I think, in 2003 here at First Congregational Church. And the title is Arnold Escapes from Church. Oops. One of the hallmarks of the film series is technical difficulties. Sid, do you have any idea why we're not seeing that? Yeah, we let me try minimizing this. Well, we were okay just a second ago. Let's take a look here. System preferences. So this is where we say, talk quietly among yourselves. Yeah, that was mirrored. Oh, that turned off. This looks better. Here we go. We'll try again.
All rise for the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for my name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
So we try to choose films with some connection to the scripture, and sometimes the connection is looser than others, and we try not to be too literal about that requirement. Let's go back here to the PowerPoint, and anybody recall having seen that film here? Yeah, we've shown it several times. There we go. The film series began, I'm a little hazy about this, Jim White may know a little more than I do, around 1996, the Lenten Film Series. And it was created by the Reverend Jim White, our pastor emeritus, thank you, Jim, and Eric Bossi, a cinema person who dwelt among us at the time. And the concept was that every Friday in Lent, there would be a film as chosen by Reverend White and Eric Bossi, tied to the Lenten theme. At that time, there was a theme each Lent that was announced. After Eric's departure, I took over coordinating the film series in 2000 and kept it pretty much as was, but I added the tradition of a short film with each show and each night, because I really, really, really like short films. I think that they are incredible. They are, I think, the poetry of the film world. They're short, but oftentimes very complex and very meaningful. And then in some years, we expanded the film series due to popular demand, as they say in the entertainment industry, to a summer, fall, winter, spring series. And I know that there are a number of people, I look out in the audience, who will remember the significance of summer, fall, winter, spring. She was a princess on television. But we really enjoyed those, and those were generally done on Sunday. Thus far in the series, we've had about 250 major primary films, main features, and a parallel number of shorts. So that's a lot of films, and you can be relieved that I'm not going to go over each one of them today, although I would dearly, dearly love to. But I will say something about the themes. I have a record of almost all the themes, and this is a list that I have going back to the year 2000. Again, generally chosen by the pastor, not always. And you can see there are some things that have a clear connection to our Christian activities, the Our Father prayer, the Ten Commandments, Gandhi's 7 deadly social sins. I'll say a little more about that. So we would choose the films to try to match these themes in some way, and oftentimes there were sub-themes as well, a theme for each week. Some of these themes were easier than others. Lovers and Fools, for example. If you're choosing films, there's a lot of options there for lovers and films, right? Early Christian mystics, not so easy, right? Their filmography was very thin, as I like to say. But given enough elasticity in the connection between the actual film and the topic, we were able to move these forward. Another interesting one I'll just mention is 1848. This was part of the Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring series. This topic came up when Jim White was in our parlor, and Kathy has chosen a sort of a mid-American wood image of a wood painting done on the Mississippi River, and the title of the painting is 1848. And Jim looked at that and said, "Jerry, we should do a film series based upon the year 1848. And I'm always up for a challenge. I said, sure, absolutely. It was amazing the number of things that happened in 1848 and the number of films that were related to those things that happened. And so thank you, Jim. That was a great suggestion, and I had a lot of fun with it. I want to show I'm going to show you some clips, and again, I'd love to show you clips from a gajillion films, but I really can't. I'm going to show some, and I couldn't find a good way to decide which films I should pick for some illustrative clips. So I just went to the very first series that I have a record of. It was started in March of the year 2000, and the theme was Journeys. Journeys. And I'm going to read the titles of the films, and just a little brief, what we had is a synopsis of the film. Some of you know that we create a synopsis of the films that we're going to show. The first film was Wizard of Oz. The classic film Dorothy's Search for Rescue, Friendship, and Kansas in the surreal backdrop of Oz takes us once again down the yellow brick road, and that's a film from 1939. The second film in the series was Trip to Bonneville. An elderly Texas woman longs to escape her life in a suburban apartment and visit her childhood home in the town of Bountiful. She succeeds in a touching story of a bus trip through time and Texas, and that film was made in 1985. Next, Strangers in Good Company, a comedy, a serious comedy, about 8 radically different women in their 70s who are stranded in the Quebec countryside when their bus breaks down. A Mohawk, a non-conventional freethinker, a literary lesbian, a nun who's mechanically skilled, and a prodigiously talented blues singer. That's a Canadian film from 1990. Next we saw Walkabout. An adolescent girl and her young brother lost in the Australian wilderness find salvation with an aborigine on a rite of passage walkabout. It was quoted, a comment, a mystical and lyrical story, a movie that celebrates life, and that was from 1970. Nicholas Roeg was the director. Next, Lady Bird, Lady Bird, and this was a very poignant film, story of an English woman struggling often unsuccessfully with her role as a mother, her journey through the British child welfare system and fight to keep her children, a Ken Loach film from 1994, and this film is an exemplar of another aspect of the Lenten film series, and that is the films are not always cheerful, and they don't always have a happy ending, much like Lent itself. And then we close with a film called I Will Fight No More Forever. In the 19th century, the United States government made 1,000 treaties with Indian tribes throughout the country. They honored less than 100. We Will Fight No More Forever is a tragic story from this time about the Nez Perce in their 1,700-mile, 108-day fighting retreat trying to get to Canada, led by the courageous Chief Joseph. It's a docudrama. It's a Hollywood movie. We don't usually show like sort of Hollywood movies, but this one was so moving, I decided to show it. And I'll apologize, the clip for that last one, I couldn't find a good clip. I'm usually pretty fussy about that, but the dialogue is really the key. So let's just take a minute and see if we can see some of these films. Let's hope that this will come back to us. And once again, we fail, but fear not. You've heard that here before, haven't you? The mirror displays keeps turning off itself. How's that? I'm just going to leave that window open and about that size. I think that should be okay for us.
To us!
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is the Wizard of Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
I would like a ticket to Bountiful, please.
Where?
To Bountiful.
I can sell you a ticket to Harrison or to Cotton, but there's no Bountiful.
She has a serious heart condition that might be real serious for her to be left alone. I don't think she has any money, and I'd like to find her.
I am not going to spend the rest of my life running after your mother. I think we ought to just turn this whole thing over to the police.
What do you do when you're 80 years old, lost in the woods, in the company of strangers?
1, 2, 3.
Hello. Now you gotta put it up like this. Get it going? Miss. Where'd you learn how to do this, Webby? I was a belly dancer in my youth.
I think everybody's life is interesting.
It's a drama. You're knocking, Constance?
Knocking.
Oh, dear. What have we got, Constance?
King Jack.
You knocked on that. I got 29.
But if you met a right guy today, would you fall in love with him now?
I suppose. Why not?
You're still alive.
Oh, yes.
What's up here? We can see where we are from the top. Well, where are we now? We've just got to climb that one. But you said where we are. We're lost, Dad. No, of course not. I should try and help you. I'm tired too.
Yamo bangayan me, panyar panere.
Water.
My name is Jorge. J-O-R-G-E. Jorge.
Oh, it sounds like George, doesn't it?
Well, it is George.
Got kids, have you, George?
No, I don't.
I have. They're not with me at the moment. Social services have got them.
Why don't we take your kids away from you?
Went out with this fella. We used to have a laugh. Everything was great. He was in hospital about 2 or 3 days. He started coming round making stupid accusations that if he did me like that, what's he done to the kids?
You left the children alone in the room. Why did you lock the door, man?
I only left them once, just once. And they've taken them all the kids.
We can be close, you know, and understand each other. Do you think so?
Is this your first baby? It's our first. Yeah, what do you want?
Just came to see how you were coping with a new baby.
Can't be fine, man.
Maggie, I know your other kids are in care, and this convent seems likely to me to continue her pattern of abusive relationships.
I'm not violent. I've never been violent.
What's going on?
Can you tell me whose baby this is, please? We have a place of safety order to remove this baby.
Minor to remain in the care of the local authority.
But then they will understand they made a mistake. But we have to be gentle.
What were you thinking of? Coming into another one? Where are you going to keep it in the fucking covers?
We've got to get the baby out.
Stay where it is.
Maggie's got to come out.
Get away from me.
Come on, Maggie.
No!
Me and George are going to have a family. If it takes for the rest of our lives to try, we're going to have a family.
In another month, you will be a little bit better. And one day you will...
Himatoya Lakit. We have traveled together for many seasons. I do not think we will meet again in this life.
We are going. We too will run to Canada.
You, not I.
No! Give me a rifle. Let me fight.
You must must go.
I'm afraid.
It is a journey you must make alone. It is a dangerous journey. It is a risk we must take for Tiwi-Wans. I do not know what will happen. Maybe they will hang me. Maybe they will lock me in a prison. What then? Once I was a great chief. I made the decisions. Now the white man makes them for me.
Always in my heart, you are a great chief. My husband, you are cold.
Am I?
Your horse.
You must go. When a man seeks the prize of his heart, he does not think to count horses.
The last film that you're seeing images of now is a Good Friday film. And we do make a particular effort to try to have the Good Friday film match the spirit of Good Friday. As you leave the Good Friday film, you can anticipate on being pretty glum. So let's see what else we have here. I want to say a little bit about film selection. The selection is heavily influenced by the Telluride Film Festival, which I've attended pre-COVID at least every year. It's an amazing film festival. When people list the 4 or 5 most important film festivals in the world, Cannes is always in there. There are others that come and go from the list, Toronto, New York, Sundance, but Telluride is also always in there. It's not just the Colorado Film Festival. It's not a lot of people, but it's important films, and the attendees are important film people. We also look at this book. It's from the New York Times, the Book of Movies, The Essential 1,000 Films to See. And this is really an interesting book because not only does it list the films, it has reviews of the films, but reviews of the films as they were published in the New York Times when the film was released. So if you're looking at a film from 1929, you're reading the review that was written in 1929. And some of them are prescient, and some of them are dismissive of films that later are recognized as some of the most important films in the canon. I use some textbooks. A Short History of the Movies by Mast and Cowan is just really a great reference. Professor Jerry White, our son, is a film historian and always has a lot of really good suggestions. And I certainly like Roger Ebert's reviews. There's some criteria that we use, and here I'm using sort of the royal we a little bit because it's a very small committee. I'm very possessive of the selection process, I have to say. But needs to fit with the theme and also with the sub-theme, because there are oftentimes individual themes for each Sunday. Some sort of Christian or religious or spiritual content is important. It doesn't always happen explicitly, sometimes implicitly. I'm going to show you a couple of clips where the connection was more explicit. And the first one is from a film that is, I think, the I don't know why that always goes away. The best Jesus film ever made. Jim? Do you remember what it was? Jesus of Montreal. That's right. And it's a film about an actor who is recruited to play, I'm going to move that down a little bit away from the sun if I can. In a pageant in Montreal, an Easter pageant. And so there's just a couple of clips here, and he's recruited to play Jesus, right? A tough role. And I'm going to show you two scenes. One is, actually there are three scenes. One is his initial recruitment, kind of a John the Baptist kind of feel to it. The second is him beginning to put together his disciples. And the last is a temptation scene, which I'm sure you'll recognize.
Hello, Mr. Coulon?
Good morning, Father.
Come along, I'll show you what I have. It's a play I decided to put on 30 years ago. It's run all through summer every year since. But in the last years, the response has been dreadful. The text is somewhat outmoded. We've got to modernize the whole thing.
Okay.
Comes the first station. Jesus is sentenced to die, like a murderer.
The just will have to die now.
But why? Because he is just and we are bad.
He will carry with him our murders,
Our thefts.
our adultery. Oh, watch him buckle under the weight of our sins. They've chosen the heaviest wood of all. They've chosen the toughest wood of all.
It's all our wicked sins that are crushing his shoulders.
Our wicked sins. Poor Lamb of God, I ask you, is it my conceit that caused this?
Isn't that Constance Sanders there?
Oh, you know her?
She was a graduate at the conservatory the year I got in.
How about that? I just wouldn't want to impose anyone on you, but if you want to hire her again, it would be nice. She's an exceptionally sensitive girl.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
Daniel, what are you doing here?
Gotta talk to you.
I still prefer serving meals here. At least I'm doing something useful. How long have you been away?
I didn't keep track.
I'm afraid you'll find everything's gone rotten. The whole show, even the theater, it's all so superficial.
Would you agree to come work with me?
So where are you sleeping now?
Here and there.
Don't worry, I've got a large place.
Okay, great. We gotta find 2 guys and another girl.
Okay.
A lawyer, but this is the first time in 6 years I've set foot in court.
What are you doing at the moment?
Most of my clients, in fact, I should really say are my friends, are all connected with the media, that is, show business, literature. I look after their contracts and their fiscal planning, their investments, finances. In certain cases, I've been having career planning.
And what's career planning?
That's the sort of thing I do for an artist who is still relatively young, but who's not quite sure how to make the most of his talent. And so we sit together and we try to define a little more what he'd like to be. Actually, we're just defining his dreams. And then we establish the steps to attain them.
And it works?
Well, you know, there's an actress who was born down there, in the blue-collar district, and who now lives in Malibu Beach. Of course, I could name a few others who were born in Shawinigan or St. Raymond de Portneuf, and who now own an apartment in Paris, or a loft in New York.
Hello, Richard. Nice to see you.
Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
What do you have to do for all that?
Nothing special. What you like doing?
Even doing the Way of the Cross at the shrine?
Jesus Christ's character is quite fashionable, but you'd have to get to the studio tomorrow morning for the weekend's best cultural show, really.
I suppose, except nobody's invited me to go.
I could make 2 or 3 telephone calls if you want. Nothing could be more simple. There's always a lot more media space and guests with serious things to say.
I wouldn't have much to say myself, I'm afraid.
It wouldn't be really essential. You are a damn good actor.
Actors rely on text.
We would write you an outline. There are ways of saying insignificant things that are extremely popular. Well, think of Ronald Reagan. And there are others. In just about every country now, actors are omnipresent. On television, on radio, in magazines. All you see are actors everywhere.
There are actresses too. There's Jane Fonda.
As long as they're good looking. But you don't have to worry on that score, my precious.
Oh, he's such an ass, really.
She's 18.
Hi, Richard. I left a message for you.
I'll call you back. Have you ever thought about publishing a book?
What, a novel, you mean?
Well, it could be your memoirs, or your travels, or your long struggle with drugs or alcohol. Whatever you like.
Well, I'm not a writer.
Oh, I didn't say write, I just said publish. You see, generally publishing houses have writers available. Talented ones. And poor, of course.
They would be.
Do I shock you?
No.
I'm just trying to make you see that with the talent you have, Danny, the entire city is yours. If you want.
Some of you may recall in the movie that he plays Jesus' character in this revisioned Easter pageant, and it's revisioned in a fundamentalist way and did not go over well with the powers that be, and he finds himself in trouble with the police, and it ends up in much the same way as the original Jesus story does. We're kind of, looks as though we're gaining the light here. So I'm just going to show one more religiously focused clip. And this is from the movie Witness. Some of you may recall this. A young Amish boy is in the train station in Philadelphia on his way home, witnesses a brutal murder, and ends up back at home, but protected by a Philadelphia policeman who is trying to keep this young boy from getting killed because he was a witness. And here's a great scene with the grandfather.
This gun of the hand is for the taking of human life. We believe it is wrong to take life. That is only for God. Many times wars have come. And people have said to us, you must fight, you must kill. It is the only way to preserve the good. But Samuel, there is never only one way. Remember that. Would you kill another man?
I would only kill a bad man.
Only the bad man, I see. And you know these bad men by sight? You are able to look into their hearts and see this badness?
I can see what they do. I have seen it.
And having seen, you become one of them. Don't you understand? What do you take into your hands? You take into your heart. Wherefore, come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord. And touch not the unclean thing. Go and finish your chores now.
Yes, Grossfather.
Another really fine film, I think, and one that was definitely, clearly connected to Christianity. I think I had a few more clips where really gaining the lights are not going to be able to see them. I just want to run through a few more things here. Rob, do I have a few more minutes to go? 2 minutes? Yeah. Film sources, Facets, which is a film distributor in Chicago of obscure films, but now eBay, Etsy, YouTube, films can be found almost anywhere. Some of the films are sufficiently obscure that we've obtained them from the directors. I've contacted the director saying, hey, I want to show this at our church. And they say, sure, our fee is XX dollars. And I say, well, we don't need money. And anyway, we usually come to an agreement and get the film. What are the selection criteria? The technical quality of the media. You need to be able to see it clearly. We look for things not commonly or recently available in Colorado Springs. Each series we try to do a silent, a black and white, a foreign film, mix of old and new. Typically, the span can be 75 years of the films that we see. They need to be sort of accessible, although we've seen a few Stan Brakhage films and things like that, but we try to make them films that you can understand. No strong violence or sexual content, or strong sexual content. Again, we do show a lot of films here that really aren't suitable for children, so I'll mention that to you. If you think you want to bring your kids, give me a call first and we can talk about that. And then we do a short film each night. I just wanted to say something about the sub-films. One of the themes was Gandhi's 7 deadly social sins. And here you see the 7 social sins that we did each Friday, and with the films that were paired to each of those sins. So again, a religious connection, at least in topic. And then technical parts. Well, we began by watching the films on this huge console TV that weighed about 10,000 pounds. We usually watched them in the library, but sometimes we'd move to the chapel, and it took 4 people to carry this thing. It was immense. Broadbent suggested we buy a small projector, which we did, and then years later we bought a bigger projector, and we now have a really big projector, and we can see films in here, which is typically almost theater quality in here. We have meals, which are important. Here's a meal scene from Antonia's line. The theme was Hallowed by Thy Name in Heaven. Here's a meal scene from Babette's Feast, another film we've seen here. The theme was Thy Kingdom Come, Thy Will Be Done on Earth. And our meals, although we aspire to that level, we oftentimes have a more common touch in each of our potlucks. This year, we're going to have Lent 2003, a Celtic Lent focused on Diana Butler Bass' book, Freeing Jesus. And these are the chapters, and these will be the subtopics for the movies. So that's what I have to present. I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but Rob's saying we could do a few questions. Great.
Got about 10 minutes or so, does anyone have a question for Jerry about the film series? Anyone? I've got an opening question for you, Jerry.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier in your talk about the power of seeing film in a darkened room together as a communal activity. How do you feel about the ongoing demise of the film industry, the movie industry, and theaters suffering so badly with streaming and so forth?
I think the nice thing about streaming is it gives you the opportunity to see films you would never have ever seen any other way. I do think that the type of films that we see here in the film series oftentimes are films that end up in some obscure theater someplace, sometime, and you can have a chance to see them. But I do feel that there's a loss with streaming. It's a phenomenon that we've heard about from Reverend White here in the church, the bowling alone syndrome, and it adversely influences our social interactions with one another. But the Telluride Film Festival is still on again this year.
Okay, here's some questions.
So this is actually not so much a question as something that I really appreciate. It's kind of a bookend. We have the potluck where we have communion, kind of, then the movies, plural, and then we meet typically in the chapel, or it has been in the chapel, and discuss it. And that is it's kind of a bookend to me, and a very precious one of communally discussing the themes of the film, and I like that.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoy that too.
Jerry, the librarian may have missed when you listed sources. The Library of Congress has worked for decades to establish a historic film library at the Library of Congress. Do you use that list?
Yes, and we've had some films from there. They publish them on DVDs sometimes. Yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you, Judith. Jim, did you have a question?
So Ardith stole my question, but can you elaborate on what you think the role of the post-film discussion is?
I think it allows us to process a film that may have been difficult to see or difficult to understand. I think that's one thing. The second thing is it allows each of us to share with each other some bit of interpretation or knowledge that the rest of us may not have seen. Cinema, like any other art form, is very complex. And I think, there's never a film I've seen where I've really understood or been cognizant of all the things that I should have been or were available to me in the film. Since you've raised that issue, I'm going to double down on you. We showed a film, and I thought about doing a clip for it here. It's called Butter Lamp, and it's a Tibetan film. And it's a film of different Tibetan families, farmers, just sort of regular Tibetan people, having their photograph taken in a formal photographer, street photographer. But behind them are these curtains with different scenes, so they can have their photograph taken. It looks like they're in some beautiful temple or in some beautiful city scene or something like that. Butter Lamp. And we showed that film, and I really enjoyed it. But during the discussion, you offered us an interpretation of a number of different symbols that were in that film that had completely gone over my, I had no idea what it was about. And it just made the film entirely different for me. So that's another purpose of the discussion.
Any other questions? All right.
Can I just say one more thing about this discussion? And one of the things that influences me about this discussion is going to the Telluride Film Festival. Because in that setting, you'll see there'll be a little introduction, you'll see a film, and then there's oftentimes a discussion afterward. But the panel on the discussion is oftentimes the actors and the director. And what you learn from that is just incredible. And sometimes it's really important things, and sometimes it's less important but really memorable. And I'm just going to do one quick remembrance of a film. Some of you may remember the film Fitzgeraldo, which is this crazy Werner Herzog film about bringing a big boat up a mountain and put it. It's really, Herzog is just really wacko. And Klaus Kinski was the main actor, also a bit of a nutcase. And there was this, and so somebody asked Herzog, Kinski tried to escape from the set. He was finished. He hopped in a boat and got somebody to row him out across this lake to get away. And so somebody asked Herzog, we heard that you grabbed a gun and brandished this gun and ran out into the water with this gun trying to get Kinski to prevent him from leaving. Is that true? And Herzog said, no, that is not true. The gun was already in the boat. And so there's little things like that that can really make a discussion a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I hope to see you at this year's Lenten Film Festival. And then some quick news. Again, no forum next week. But then the following 2 weeks, we have a 2-week series hosted by Jim White. And so it's going to be fantastic. It's all about Christian nationalism. So you're going to really want to be there for that. So thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.